You do not have a motivation problem. You have a control problem. Your mind has been trained to chase noise, distractions, comfort, and instant rewards. Every time you pick up your phone for no reason, delay important work, overthink simple decisions, or quit when things become difficult, you are teaching your brain to stay weak. But in the next 7 days, that changes. This audiobook will give you a mental reset system, a step-by-step process to eliminate distractions, rebuild focus, control your emotions, and train your mind to obey you instead of controlling you. Chapter 1. Accept that your mind is out of control. Most people believe they are in control of their lives. They believe they make their own choices. They believe they decide how they spend their time. They believe they are thinking for themselves. But look closer. You wake up and reach for your phone before your feet touch the floor. You check messages. You scroll through videos. You open apps without even thinking. You tell yourself it will only take a minute. Then 30 minutes disappear. That is not control. You sit down to do important work. 5 minutes later, you are checking notifications. You are opening another tab. You are telling yourself you will start soon. That is not control. You promise yourself you will go to the gym, wake up earlier, stop procrastinating, stop wasting time, stop overthinking, stop eating junk, stop quitting. But then the moment discomfort appears, you go right back to your old habits. That is not control. The truth is simple. Most people are not leading their minds. They are being dragged by them. Their emotions control them. Their cravings control them. Their fears control them. Their habits control them. Their environment controls them. And the worst part is they do not even realize it. They think the problem is lack of time, lack of opportunity, lack of money, lack of support. But that is not the real problem. The real problem is mental weakness. You cannot build a strong life with a weak mind. That is the key. A weak mind always chooses what feels good now instead of what will be good later. A weak mind wants comfort. It wants entertainment. It wants the easy way. It wants instant pleasure with no effort. That is why people stay stuck. They know what they should do, but they do not do it. They know they should stop scrolling, but they keep scrolling. They know they should stop procrastinating, but they keep delaying. They know they should stop wasting money, stop wasting time, stop wasting energy. But they keep repeating the same patterns. Why? Because knowledge is not enough. You can read all the books in the world. You can watch all the motivational videos in the world. You can listen to advice every single day. But if your mind is undisciplined, none of it matters. Because an undisciplined mind will always betray you. You have a choice. You can continue pretending you are in control while your habits quietly destroy your future. Or you can be honest. Brutally honest. You can look at your life and admit that your mind has been running on autopilot. That is where change begins. Not with motivation. Not with excuses. With honesty. Because if you cannot tell yourself the truth, you cannot improve. You must ask yourself hard questions. Why do you keep avoiding difficult tasks? Why do you keep reaching for distractions? Why do you keep making promises to yourself and breaking them? Why do you keep choosing comfort over growth? These questions matter because your daily habits reveal the truth about your mind. Not your words. Not your intentions. Your habits. A person who says they want success but wastes 5 hours a day on meaningless content does not really want success. They want comfort. A person who says they want discipline but quits the moment things become hard does not really want discipline. They want easy results. A person who says they want change but keeps repeating the same destructive behaviors does not really want change. They want fantasy. That sounds harsh. But it is true. And sometimes the truth hurts before it helps. You do not need more excuses. You do not need more reasons. You do not need more people telling you that everything is okay. You need accountability. You need to stop lying to yourself. Because every small action matters. Every time you hit snooze, you teach yourself that comfort comes first. Every time you procrastinate, you teach yourself that fear is stronger than action. Every time you quit, you teach yourself that pressure is stronger than commitment. And every time you ignore what you know you should do, you weaken your own mind. That is why the small things matter so much. People think discipline is about huge achievements. It is not. Discipline is built in the small moments. When you wake up on time. When you finish what you started. When you resist the urge to check your phone. When you do the work even when you do not feel like it. If you cannot control the small things, you will never control the big things. That is the key. Mental control is not something you suddenly wake up with one day. It is built. Day by day. Choice by choice. You train it. You strengthen it. You prove it to yourself. And it starts with awareness. You must become aware of the moments when your mind is trying to control you. The moment you take ownership of your habits, your thoughts, your reactions, and your actions, you stop being a victim of your mind. You become its leader. That is where the reset begins. You admitted the truth. You stopped pretending. You accepted that your mind has been controlling you. Now it is time to cut off the things making you weak. Chapter 2: Stop feeding distractions. Your mind becomes whatever you feed it. If you feed it noise, it becomes noisy. If you feed it laziness, it becomes weak. If you feed it distractions every hour of every day, it loses the ability to focus. That is exactly what has happened to most people. They cannot sit still. They cannot focus for more than a few minutes. They cannot finish one task without checking their phone, opening another tab, replying to a message, or looking for entertainment. And then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed, tired, distracted, and mentally weak. The answer is simple. They are feeding their mind garbage. Every day, people consume endless videos, endless gossip, endless news, endless opinions, endless notifications, endless noise. And they never stop to ask themselves one important question. What is all of this doing to my mind? Because every piece of content you consume is shaping the way you think. That is the key. If you spend hours every day watching negative content, your mind becomes negative. If you spend hours every day watching pointless entertainment, your mind becomes weak. If you spend hours every day reacting to notifications, trends, and other people's opinions, your mind loses the ability to think for itself. Your mind is like a garden. What you water grows. What you ignore dies. If you water distractions, distractions grow. If you water focus, focus grows. You have a choice. Most people wake up and immediately poison their minds. Before they even get out of bed, they check their phone. They scroll through social media. They look at what everyone else is doing. They fill their head with noise before they have even given themselves a chance to think. That is a terrible way to start your day. Because the first thing you feed your mind in the morning shapes the rest of your day. If the first thing you feed your mind is distraction, you will spend the entire day distracted. If the first thing you feed your mind is negativity, you will spend the entire day negative. If the first thing you feed your mind is urgency, stress, and random information, you will spend the entire day reacting instead of leading. That is why you must protect your attention. Attention is your greatest resource. Where your attention goes, your life goes. Read that again. Where your attention goes, your life goes. If your attention is always on drama, gossip, entertainment, social media, and distractions, your life will move in that direction. But if your attention is on learning, building, improving, growing, and working, your life will move in that direction. That is why successful people are extremely protective of their focus. They understand that distractions are expensive. Every time you get distracted, you lose momentum. Every time you switch between tasks, your mind becomes weaker. Every time you interrupt yourself, you train your brain to avoid deep work. People think distractions only cost them a few minutes. That is not true. A 5-minute distraction can destroy an entire hour of focus. You sit down to work. You pick up your phone. Just for a second. You open one app. Then another. Then another. Suddenly 30 minutes are gone. Your energy is gone. Your momentum is gone. Your focus is gone. That is the cost of distraction. And the worst part is that most people repeat this cycle every single day. They are addicted to interruptions. They are addicted to stimulation. They are addicted to noise. They say they want focus, but they keep feeding the habits that destroy it. You cannot build a disciplined mind while feeding it chaos. That is the key. If you want mental control, you must remove what weakens your mind. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Turn off useless notifications. Stop checking your phone every few minutes. Stop sleeping next to your phone. Stop opening social media every time you feel bored. Stop watching content that adds nothing to your life. Stop surrounding yourself with noise. You do not need to know everything. You do not need to respond to everyone. You do not need to watch every trend, every video, every opinion, every argument. Most of it does not matter. Most of it is stealing your time. Most of it is stealing your focus. You have a choice. You can continue feeding your mind distractions and wonder why you feel weak. Or you can start feeding your mind discipline. Read books instead of endless posts. Spend time thinking instead of constantly consuming. Go for a walk without your phone. Sit in silence. Focus on one task at a time. Train yourself to be present. Because focus is a skill. No phone. No messages. No music. No switching tabs. Just one task. Then do it again tomorrow. And again the next day. Little by little, your mind will get stronger. You will notice something powerful. You will stop feeling so scattered. You will stop feeling mentally exhausted all the time. You will stop feeling controlled by every notification and every urge. Because now you are training your attention instead of giving it away. That is real power. Most people never experience that power because they never learn how to sit with boredom. The second they feel bored, they reach for stimulation. The second they feel uncomfortable, they escape into distraction. But boredom is not the enemy. Boredom is training. When you resist the urge to constantly entertain yourself, you strengthen your mind. When you sit quietly without reaching for your phone, you strengthen your mind. When you stay focused on one thing for a long period of time, you strengthen your mind. It is not about entertainment. It is about discipline. It is not about deleting every app and disappearing from the world. It is about learning to control what controls you. Because right now, most people are not using technology. Technology is using them. Notifications tell them when to look. Algorithms tell them what to think about. Apps tell them what to care about. And they obey without question. Do not be one of those people. You do not need their permission to take back control of your attention. You do not need to stay available to everyone all the time. You do not need to keep feeding your mind things that make you weaker. Protect your attention. Protect your focus. Protect your mind. Because whatever you feed grows. And whatever you starve dies. That is the key. You accepted that your mind has been out of control. Now you are learning to cut off the distractions that have been making you weak. Next, you must train yourself to do what most people avoid. Chapter 3. Train yourself to do hard things. Your life becomes easier when you stop avoiding hard things. That sounds backwards. Most people spend their lives chasing comfort. They avoid difficulty. They avoid discomfort. They avoid pressure. They avoid effort. And because of that, their lives become harder. They become weak. They become dependent on motivation. They become afraid of challenge. They become controlled by comfort. That is the trap. The more you avoid hard things, the harder your life becomes. The more you train yourself to do hard things, the easier your life becomes. That is the key. A weak mind says, "I will do it later." A strong mind says, "Do it now." A weak mind says, "I do not feel like it." A strong mind says, "My feelings do not matter right now." A weak mind waits for the perfect mood, the perfect day, the perfect amount of energy. A strong mind acts anyway. You have a choice. You can continue building a life around comfort. Or you can start building a life around discipline. Because comfort is dangerous. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it slowly destroys you. Every time you hit snooze, you train yourself to avoid effort. Every time you procrastinate, you train yourself to run from discomfort. Every time you quit because something feels hard, you teach your brain that struggle means stop. That is why so many people stay stuck. They only do what feels easy. They only work when they feel motivated. They only take action when they feel confident. But real growth does not happen in comfort. Growth happens in discomfort. Growth happens when you are tired and still keep going. Growth happens when you are scared and still take action. Growth happens when you do not feel like doing the work but you do it anyway. That is how mental strength is built. One hard choice at a time. You do not become disciplined overnight. You build discipline through small acts of self-control. You wake up when the alarm goes off. You get out of bed immediately. You finish the workout even when you want to quit. You do the task you have been avoiding. You stop making excuses. You stop negotiating with yourself. Because every time you do something hard, you send a message to your brain. You say, "I am in control." That is the key. Your mind is always listening to what you do, not what you say. You can tell yourself that you are disciplined all day long. But if you constantly quit, delay, avoid, and complain, your brain knows the truth. Your actions reveal your standards. A person who says, "I am trying," but keeps making excuses is not really trying. A person who says, "I want success," but avoids hard work does not really want success. A person who says, "I want change," but refuses to leave their comfort zone does not really want change. That may sound harsh, but it is true. And the truth matters more than comfort. Easy choices create a hard life. Hard choices create an easy life. That is the key. The person who chooses to stay in bed feels comfortable now, but later they feel regret. The person who chooses to work out feels uncomfortable now, but later they feel stronger. The person who chooses to procrastinate feels relief now, but later they feel stress. The person who chooses discipline feels discomfort now, but later they feel pride. You have a choice. Do you want the easy pain now and the hard pain later? Or do you want the hard pain now and the easy life later? Because one way or another, pain is coming. You either face the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And regret is always heavier. That is why you must stop trusting your feelings. Your feelings change every day. Some days you will feel motivated. Some days you will feel tired. Some days you will feel confident. Some days you will feel lazy. If you only take action when you feel good, you will never be consistent. You cannot build a powerful life on temporary emotions. You build it on standards. You build it on routines. You build it on discipline. That is the key. You do not need to enjoy every hard thing you do. You just need to do it. You do not need to love waking up early. You just need to get up. You do not need to love working out. You just need to train. You do not need to love difficult conversations. You just need to have them. You do not need to love the process every day. You just need to respect it. Because every time you do something difficult, you become a little stronger. Chapter 4: Kill the habit of overthinking. Overthinking feels productive. That is why so many people stay trapped in it. They tell themselves they are being careful. They tell themselves they are being smart. They tell themselves they are planning, preparing, analyzing, and thinking deeply. But most of the time, they are not thinking. They are hiding. They are using thought as an excuse to avoid action. That is the truth. Overthinking is not intelligence. Overthinking is fear disguised as thinking. That is the key. You think about starting the business. You think about going to the gym. You think about sending the message. You think about making the call. You think about leaving the toxic relationship. You think about changing your life. But you do not act. And because you do not act, nothing changes. You stay stuck in the same place. Month after month. Year after year. Because you are trapped in your own head. That is what overthinking does. It makes simple things feel impossible. It turns small decisions into giant problems. It makes you imagine every possible failure before you even begin. You think about what could go wrong. You think about what people might say. You think about what happens if you fail. You think about what happens if you embarrass yourself. You think about every possible negative outcome until you are too exhausted to move. That is not preparation. That is self-destruction. You have a choice. You can keep replaying the same thoughts over and over again. Or you can start taking action. Because action destroys overthinking. That is the key. The more you think without acting, the more fear grows. The more you act, the more fear shrinks. Fear needs stillness to survive. Fear grows in delay. Fear grows in hesitation. Fear grows when you keep waiting for certainty. But certainty never comes. No one ever feels completely ready. No one ever feels completely confident. No one ever knows exactly what will happen. The people who change their lives are not the people who wait until they feel ready. They are the people who act before they feel ready. That is the difference. Most people are waiting for confidence before they begin. But confidence comes after action, not before. You do not become confident by sitting in your room thinking about success. You become confident by doing difficult things and surviving them. You become confident by taking risks. You become confident by proving to yourself that you can handle discomfort. That is the key. Think about all the times you wasted energy overthinking something. A message you were afraid to send. A conversation you were afraid to have. A decision you were afraid to make. You imagined the worst. You stressed yourself out. You delayed. And when you finally did it, what happened? Usually, it was not nearly as bad as you expected. Because the mind exaggerates fear. The mind turns small problems into giant monsters. But once you face them, you realize they were never as powerful as they looked. That is why action is so important. Action brings clarity. Action reveals truth. Action shows you what is real and what only exists in your imagination. Thinking without action is mental torture. That is the key. You do not need more time. You do not need more research. You do not need to ask 10 more people for advice. Most of the time, you already know what you need to do. You are just afraid to do it. That is the truth. You know you need to stop wasting time. You know you need to stop making excuses. You know you need to stop delaying difficult conversations. You know you need to stop staying in situations that are making you miserable. You know you need to stop waiting. But instead of taking action, you keep thinking. And the more you think, the more trapped you become. That is why you must learn to trust yourself. Not because you will always make perfect decisions, but because you can handle imperfect decisions. You do not need to be right every time. You just need to move. Because even a bad decision teaches you something. Even a mistake moves you forward. Even failure gives you experience. But doing nothing gives you nothing. Doing nothing keeps you stuck. Doing nothing slowly destroys your confidence because every day you avoid action, you teach yourself that fear is stronger than you are. Do not do that to yourself. You have a choice. You can keep living inside your head. Or you can start living in the real world. The real world is where growth happens. The real world is where confidence is built. The real world is where you stop imagining and start doing. That does not mean you stop thinking completely. It means you stop using thinking as a hiding place. Because there is a difference between planning and overthinking. Planning creates action. Overthinking delays action. Planning gives you direction. Overthinking gives you paralysis. Planning says, "Here is what I need to do." Overthinking says, "What if something goes wrong?" One moves you forward. The other keeps you stuck. That is the key. You do not need to know every step before you begin. You just need to know the next step. Take the next step. Then the next. Then the next. That is how progress works. No one climbs a mountain in one giant leap. They do it one step at a time. Your life works the same way. If you want to stop overthinking, create a rule for yourself. When you catch yourself thinking too much, act quickly. If there is a call you need to make it. If there is a task you need to start it. If there is a decision you need to make it. Do not give fear time to grow. Do not give doubt time to take over. Move. That is the key. The longer you wait, the harder things feel. The faster you act, the easier things become. Because courage is not something you find. Courage is something you build. You build it by taking action while you are afraid. You build it by moving while your mind tells you to stay still. You build it by proving to yourself that fear is not stronger than you. You stopped feeding distractions. You trained yourself to do hard things. You stopped hiding behind overthinking. Now it is time to master the thing that controls most people more than anything else. Chapter 5. Control your emotions before they control you. Most people do not control their emotions. Their emotions control them. They wake up feeling tired, so they become lazy. They feel angry, so they say something stupid. They feel rejected, so they give up. They feel jealous, so they start comparing themselves to other people. They feel stressed, so they escape into distractions. They feel sad, so they stop trying. That is the pattern. A feeling appears, and they obey it immediately. They never stop. They never think. They never ask themselves whether that emotion deserves control over their actions. That is why so many people ruin opportunities, relationships, goals, and entire years of their lives. Not because they are incapable. Because they are emotionally undisciplined. That is the key. Emotions are normal. Everyone feels anger. Everyone feels fear. Everyone feels frustration. Everyone feels sadness. Everyone feels doubt. The problem is not having emotions. The problem is letting emotions make decisions for you. You have a choice. You can feel an emotion without becoming controlled by it. You can feel anger without exploding. You can feel fear without quitting. You can feel sadness without giving up. You can feel jealousy without becoming bitter. That is real strength. Real strength is not about pretending you never feel anything. Real strength is about staying in control when emotions appear. Because emotions are temporary. But the damage caused by emotional decisions can last for years. One angry message can destroy a relationship. One emotional reaction can cost you a job. One moment of jealousy can make you hate your own life. One day of frustration can make you quit something that could have changed your future. That is why emotional control matters so much. You cannot build a strong life with a weak emotional state. That is the key. Think about how many times you have made a bad decision because of emotion. You were angry, so you said something you regret. You were impatient, so you quit too early. You were afraid, so you avoided something important. You were insecure, so you looked for approval from people who did not deserve your energy. Emotion made the decision, and you paid the price. Most people believe emotions are commands. They are not. Emotions are signals. That is all. Anger is a signal. Fear is a signal. Sadness is a signal. Stress is a signal. But just because you feel something does not mean you have to obey it. That is where discipline comes in. Feel it, but do not become it. That is the key. You can feel angry without becoming an angry person. You can feel sad without becoming a weak person. You can feel fear without becoming a coward. You can feel nervous without becoming helpless. Your emotions are visitors. They come and go. But if you let them stay too long, they take over your mind. That is why you must learn to pause. Pause before you react. Pause before you speak. Pause before you send the message. Pause before you quit. Pause before you make a decision when you are emotional. Because emotions are strongest in the moment. And if you react in the moment, you usually make the wrong choice. That is the truth. When you are angry, your job is not to react. Your job is to slow down. Breathe. Walk away. Stay quiet. Think. Because once words leave your mouth, you cannot take them back. When you are afraid, your job is not to run. Your job is to ask yourself whether the fear is real or imagined. Most fear is imagined. Most fear comes from overthinking. Most fear comes from worrying about things that have not even happened yet. Do not let imagined problems control real decisions. That is the key. When you are jealous, stop comparing yourself to other people. Comparison destroys peace. There will always be someone richer, someone smarter, someone stronger, someone more successful. But none of that matters. Because your life is your responsibility. Your job is not to compete with everyone else. Your job is to become better than the person you were yesterday. That is the only comparison that matters. You do not need their permission. You do not need their approval. You do not need to prove yourself to anyone. You need to control yourself. That is the key. Most emotional pain comes from wanting control over things you cannot control. You cannot control what people say about you. You cannot control who leaves. You cannot control what happens in the world. You cannot control every outcome. But you can control your response. And your response is everything. Two people can go through the same problem. One becomes stronger. The other becomes weaker. Why? Because one controls their mind. The other lets emotions control them. You have a choice. You can become the kind of person who reacts to everything. Or you can become the kind of person who remains calm under pressure. The calm person always wins. Because calm people think clearly. Calm people make better decisions. Calm people do not waste energy on things that do not matter. Calm people are dangerous because they do not let emotion blind them. That is real power. Not shouting. Not panicking. Not exploding. Staying calm when everyone else loses control. That is strength. If you want to train emotional control, start with small moments. The next time something annoys you, stay quiet for a minute. The next time you feel angry, breathe before you speak. The next time you feel fear, act anyway. The next time you feel rejected, remind yourself that rejection is part of growth. The next time you feel stressed, stop running to distractions and sit with the feeling. Because every time you stay calm, you get stronger. Every time you control an emotion instead of obeying it, you build discipline. Every time you choose your response instead of reacting automatically, you take back power. That is the purpose of this mental reset. Not to stop feeling. To stop being controlled by what you feel. You have taken control of your distractions. You cannot control what happens in the world. You cannot control every outcome. But you can control your response. And your response is everything. Two people can go through the same problem. One becomes stronger. The other becomes weaker. Why? Because one controls their mind. The other lets emotions control them. You have a choice. You can become the kind of person who reacts to everything. Or you can become the kind of person who remains calm under pressure. The calm person always wins. Because calm people think clearly. Calm people make better decisions. Calm people do not waste energy on things that do not matter. Calm people are dangerous because they do not let emotion blind them. That is real power. Not shouting. Not panicking. Not exploding. Staying calm when everyone else loses control. That is strength. If you want to train emotional control, start with small moments. The next time something annoys you, stay quiet for a minute. The next time you feel angry, breathe before you speak. The next time you feel fear, act anyway. The next time you feel rejected, remind yourself that rejection is part of growth. The next time you feel stressed, stop running to distractions and sit with the feeling. Because every time you stay calm, you get stronger. Every time you control an emotion instead of obeying it, you build discipline. Every time you choose your response instead of reacting automatically, you take back power. That is the purpose of this mental reset. Not to stop feeling. To stop being controlled by what you feel. You have taken control of your distractions. You have learned to do hard things. You have stopped overthinking. You have started controlling your emotions. Now it is time to build the routine that will shape every day of your life.